Hi everyone, and welcome to the Arcadis Graduate Civil Engineering Insights event. Over the next hour, my team and I will take you through a little bit about Arcadis, what it's like to be a civil engineer with us, as well as some application hints and tips, and then a live Q&A with some of our graduates. You should hopefully leave this session with a bit more insight into civil engineering at Arcadis, and really just an insight into the roles that we can offer you. So to start off with, here is a quick overview of how the session will be broken down. We'll start off with a bit of an overview to Arcadis as a company. We'll then go through the spotlight on each of the different areas where we hire civil engineers into. I'll give you a bit of an update on our application process, including some hints and tips, and then the piece that you've all been waiting for is the graduate panel. There is an option to submit questions, so please do submit those throughout, and we will ask them in the panel session. So to start off with, I'm going to give you a short overview to our business. So Arcadis' story began back in 1888 in the Netherlands, where we developed unusable land into places for people to live and establish communities. Now we focus on creating better housing, revolutionising transport systems, and finding new solutions to complex environmental challenges. Today, we are the leading global design consultancy firm for natural and built assets. We work across 6 areas of expertise. So we've got cost and commercial management, design and engineering, business advisory, environmental restoration, program management, environmental health and safety. And our business is aligned to 3 global business areas. We've got mobility, places and resilience. Mobility. Here is where we design connected, sustainable solutions which integrate existing infrastructure with new technologies to optimise the mobility of people and goods. This includes intelligent rail and transit solutions, connected highway solutions which are data-led, and providing sustainable solutions for the world's airports. In places, we work with our clients globally to create, support and enhance safe, smart and sustainable places where people live, work, learn and thrive. This includes reimagining the workplace, so creating workspaces and environments that are flexible, adaptive and blend to our changing needs, unlocking the potential of big data to help clients transform their assets to meet their demand, as well as helping organisations, asset owners and communities to meet their net zero goals. And then finally, resilience. Here we work to protect our natural environment and water resources whilst powering our world for future generations. This includes working to reduce global warming by helping our clients transition towards low carbon and renewable sources of energy. We manage water resources in a sustainable way to enable our clients to reach water optimization, offer sustainability advisory services to clients to drive sustainable operations, products, supply chains, and restore the environment through cutting-edge science and technology. Now, our civil engineers work across all of our global business areas, and the graduates that you'll hear from today particularly cover mobility and resilience. Now, just a bit about Arcadis in the UK. So we actually recruit across all UK locations that you can see on the slide in front of you, and each Arcadian is assigned to an office. We currently operate a hybrid working environment, which means that if you do join us, you'll spend some time in the office or on client base and some time based at home. Our hybrid working schedule is project and client dependent. So if you are successful in getting a role with us, then that will be discussed with you. We're also very proud winners of some great awards, the newest being our first ever entry into the Times Top 100 Employers as voted by you guys, the students. We've also been listed on Glassdoor's Best Places to Work for 2022 and have recently signed up to the Sustainable Recruitment Alliance, where we've continued our ongoing commitment to sustainability into our approaches in attraction and recruitment. So hopefully that's given you a bit of an insight into Arcadis and the overall work that we do as a company. What we're going to move on to now is the spotlight sections. So first up, we're going to find out a bit more about water utilities. So I'm going to hand over to my colleague, Noura.
That's great. Thank you, Holly. So hi, everyone. I'm Nuria. I'm a civil engineer in Arcadis. I work in the water utilities team. So in this slide, I wanted to talk about my career path, let's say. I joined Arcadis in September 2018 in a graduate program. So I am I had my degree in civil engineering in Valencia, and then I decided to do my master's in civil engineering, and I got a double program degree in Cranfield University here in the UK in the water and wastewater engineering Master of Science. And in between that period as well, I had a year's change in the States in the University of Illinois. So with that, then I got my degrees and my masters, and it's when I applied to Arcadis, and I finally joined in September 2018. So well, in 2021, I got a promotion to an assistant engineer, and then another new role as another promotion as a civil engineer, up to date, which I'm civil engineer and also a product owner in Arcadis. So what I wanted to show in this slide really is how over time you start like getting opportunities in Arcadis. I felt like I had really good exposure and good opportunities during my career, and little by little I got like those promotions and the excitement of new positions. Even now at the moment, I'm starting as a product owner, which is not as related to engineering, but more with product development and digital and innovation side of the business, which again shows how you don't have to be like always looking at numbers and engineering. And if you are interested in some other sides of the business, you get the opportunities to do so. If we go to the next slide, Holly, please. I wanted to show you the project that I am currently working on as the civil design lead. This is Guildford Sewage Treatment Works. So it's a new sewage treatment works based on an activated sludge plant technology. And here you can see like the rendered video that we created for the bid to win the project. I was involved in this project from the tender stage until now, which we are in detail design. So I've been watching this project since the concept moment. So some of the highlights I would say is like I'm based on the Exeter office, but I work with a global team. So I'm working with people from the Guildford office, from Manchester, Bristol, that's at a national scale, but I'm also working with people from India, from Brazil, from Netherlands. So it's a multicultural environment. In my team, we work always with 3D models, and it's not only like nice pictures, but it's also 3D data-rich models, which then we can use that information to pass on to other teams and colleagues. And of course, we focus on the environmental side of the projects. So in this one, for example, we did some carbon estimations. So I think with that, I just show a bit of the project and give an overview of how, with my degree and my master, how at the end how you can apply this into a real project.
Thank you so much for that, Noura. So what we'll do now is we shall move on to rail. So Zoe, if you'd like to put your camera on, please. Perfect.
I have. Can you see me?
I can. Let me just pull you up. Fantastic.
Perfect. Hi, I'm Zoe. I'm an assistant engineer working at Arcadis. I'm based in Warrington, that's near Manchester. I work in the rail team, primarily designing bridges and culverts, which are basically large pipes or small tunnels, depending on how you look at it. But how did I get here? So at school, I knew I liked maths and building things. So engineering on paper was the best fit, but I wasn't really sure what that involved. So prior to going to university and right after I finished my A-levels, I decided to complete a year in industry placement. So I did a year at Arcadis as an 18-year-old. So I started with the Arcadis rail structures team, I guess, technically, back in September 2015. As a student engineer, I got hands-on training, went on loads of site visits and got some design experience working with other engineers. And as well as this year, I also did 3 subsequent summer placements with Arcadis whilst I was at university. So in July 2020, I graduated from Coventry University with my master's in civil and structural engineering. After a little bit of a setback with the coronavirus pandemic, I then started with Arcadis as a graduate in October 2020. So I rejoined the team I'd worked with previously as a graduate, which was nice for me, as I already knew who I was going to be working with. When I came back as a graduate, I started working on High Speed 2, a national rail scheme, which I'm sure everyone's heard of by now. And here I supported on a couple of designs for bridges and a culvert before designing this bridge that I've put on the screen at the bottom there, pretty much all by myself. After completing this in March of this year, I then swapped job roles with a colleague. So I moved into the geotechnical team for 6 months and she moved into the rail structures team. And on this job role swap, I've completed a number of geotechnical things such as supervising ground investigation, interrogating the data to determine soil parameters, designed retaining walls, piled foundations and shallow foundations. So I really just wanted to point out the placement opportunities that we have at Arcadis, and then the breadth of experience you can get once you work here. You know, you're not in one team and there forever. You can move around a bit and try different things out. Next slide, please, Holly. So onto my project. HS2, as I mentioned, I'll just give you a bit of a background. So it's a national rail project in the UK. It's a high-speed railway linking London, the Midlands and the North, serving 25 stations, 8 of Britain's 10 largest cities and connecting around 30 million people. That's the plan, at least. Construction's in 3 phases. The first phase, London to Birmingham, and that's the bit that we're working on at the moment. Arcadis are in a design joint venture with Setec and Covey, and we're working on the central section, which is 80 kilometres of railway in Buckinghamshire. So that's all manner of structures, bridges, viaducts, culverts, cuttings, embankments, as well as all the interfaces with other disciplines, so utilities and services, watercourses, highways, diversions and things that go along with that. As I had worked on HS2 briefly at scheme design on one of my summer placements, it was really nice to rejoin this project to get a feel for the detailed design work as a graduate. So this bridge has the very catchy name, Bridleway QUA 28A Overbridge. It's a complex integral steel and concrete composite bridge, 40-metre span, carrying a farm accommodation road and a bridleway over HS2 and Network Rail tracks, 4 railway lines in total. To complete the majority of the analysis for this bridge, I used MIDAS, which is what that image in the background is, the sort of wireframe, to analyze the structure, as it was such a complex structure. You know, hand calculations just weren't enough. So I completed linear and non-linear structural analysis, including modeling the construction staging in MIDAS, and that produced the bending moments and shear forces that we use to design each bridge element. So that's what that image there is showing you. That's showing you the bending moments experienced by the girders, which are supporting the deck of the bridge. Also in collaboration with the geotechnical team, which is partly what prompted my swap into the team, I modelled the soil structure interaction, so how the earth acts behind the abutments, pushing on the abutment. And this raised a few challenges, as it's an integral bridge. But I learned from these and from my lack of knowledge, and we adapted the design to ensure an efficient and, more importantly, a constructible design was created. But it isn't all just analysis. You know, whilst I like Excel spreadsheets and MIDAS models, for non-engineers that means almost nothing. And a really big part of it is the drawings and 3D models. They're our key deliverable. So as Nuria said, I worked with a global team. Our CAD engineers, so the guys that made the model, are based in India, but we also had these 3D renderings, so that second image, done by a guy based in Romania. So I worked with people from across the globe to produce these models and drawings, as well as other specification, risk assessments, and BIM compliance documents. The BIM compliance document was a new one for me and for most of the industry, as it's relatively a recent requirement. But basically, I'm ensuring that all of the design detail for each element has been tagged in the model, effectively creating a digital twin of the structure, which should allow effective maintenance and potential reuse of the structure in the future. So that's a really, whilst it might not be the most exciting part of the project, it's a really cool aspect to be involved with. I'd also say good communication is an important skill to have. On a project this large, we discuss a wide range of potential design or construction clashes with other interfacing disciplines, such as highways, geotechnics, drainage, watercourses, and suggest solutions to overcome these. It's not just internal discussions, it's with our client, with the fabricators, and with the checking engineers who make sure the bridge we've designed works. And I've also been able to have an impact sustainably. So that's one of Arcadis's core values, and I think it's an important one. So you probably can't really see, but on that bottom image, there's wing walls, the little walls that sort of stick out the left and right of the bridge supports. After concerns raised on a previous structure, I was able to optimize the design of those wing walls to reduce their length and to reduce the number of piles underneath them. This reduction in steel and concrete had a knock-on effect with carbon content, and I was able to reduce the carbon content of the piles of those wing walls by a third. So just for the piles alone, it was down from 1.3 million kilograms of a CO2 equivalent down to 0.9. So yeah, that's all from me. I hope that's given you a flavour of bridge design and the different aspects involved.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Zoe. And now we shall move over to Camille to talk to you about structures.
Yeah. Can you hear me, see me? All okay?
We can, yeah. Thank you.
Okay. I'm Camille. I'm an assistant engineer in the structures team based out of Glasgow. I first started Arcadis in 2019 on a summer placement for 3 months. I was involved in a number of projects throughout that time, and the structures unit also runs a summer placement student program, which is really fun to get involved with all the other interns. So I then went back to complete my last year of uni and graduated in June 2020 with an MEng in civil engineering with architecture. And then, similar to Zoe, COVID was in full swing. So I had 6 months out of uni. I worked part-time for a bit before starting as a graduate engineer with Arcadis in January 2021. When I first started my role, I was put on a tender design for a highway scheme. Specifically, I was working on a 4-span composite multi-girder viaduct. I got involved with other components of the project as well. There was bat hibernation structures and a lot of focus, not just on the typical bridge engineering that I expected, which was quite interesting. I moved on to another highways project later as well, but this one was a single-span concrete bridge. I had some involvement with HS2 as well, checking a 3-span multi-girder composite green bridge, which was, again, something new with green bridge loading, completely different. The main project I worked on last year, though, was the design of a canal bridge for the Canal and River Trust. This was quite different again because it was a much smaller scale, but it was a great project to be involved in because I got a lot more involvement because of that. I was involved right from the options generation, which is just comparing different options for what the design could be, and then right through to the detailed design. And since it was much smaller, I was able to attend client meetings. I got to work with other disciplines, geotech and the CAD team as well. So that was a really good project to be involved in early on, which I thought was interesting because I thought the big projects would always be the main focus and the fun ones, but it's actually the smaller ones that you get a wider range of experience as well. So March this year, I moved on to an on-site role on Hammersmith Bridge in London. I'll talk a bit more about this later, so I'll just gloss over that one for now. I've added in here as well, this summer I took part in a construction project in Fiji, which has been probably a highlight of my career so far. It wasn't with Arcadis, but it was with an architecture studio that I did this, but I thought it was worth mentioning just because Arcadis was really supportive of me doing this. They facilitated me going away for 4 weeks and interested in hearing all the feedback from that as well. And then most recently, I have been promoted to assistant engineer, which I thought rounded off this timeline of my experience as a graduate in Arcadis quite well. So next slide, please. So the current project I'm working on is Hammersmith Bridge. I'm on site right now in the cabin. This is the first phase of the wider Hammersmith Bridge restoration. So we're just focusing on the stabilising the pedestals of the bridge right now. Hammersmith Bridge is a 135-year-old suspension bridge, and the original roller bearings have seized, and the pedestals have started cracking because of this. So this phase is really focused around stabilising the pedestals and making sure that the bridge is safe to be used before moving on to the full restoration of it. Arcadis are the project managers on site, and specifically my role is the supervisor under the NEC contract. The role involves a lot of quality management. I witness all the works on site, I attend tests and inspections, and I sign off against them, against the designer's specification. Through this role, I also was able to take undertake the supervisor accreditation course as well. So you know, that's something that can go under your name as being fully accredited. The contract on this one is an option E contract, so I don't know how much everyone knows about all the contract options, but it's quite a high risk one, and so it's been really interesting to get involved in the commercial side opposed to the design side. And it's a complete contrast to the design work that I was involved with in the office previously. Yeah, I thought this was quite an interesting project to spotlight because it shows the diverse projects that Arcadis works on. And even though you can be in a design team, you're not always in the office doing the technical work. I really enjoy being on site. I like getting involved in sort of the front line of things. And this project also involves a lot of community engagement. We've organised school visits, coming to site, we run talks for the children, we've visited schools as well, we contribute to updates which are put on the project website, and we are dealing with the public every day because the footpaths are currently remaining open throughout all of the project works as well. And it's a lot of client involvement as well. It's much more commercial focused. And so this has also been really helpful contributing to my chartership progression. With ICE, you're required to gain a full range of experience, and there is a lot of focus on technical, but there's also the commercial side, which can typically be quite hard to achieve because a lot of the work is design focused. So with this project and the opportunities I've had to work on the design previously as well, I've been able to get a really wide range of experience so far in my role. So that's about it for me.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for that insight. That's been really helpful. So we'll give the graduates a little bit of a break now from giving you a kind of insight, and I'll just give you a bit of an overview for our application process and our hints and tips. But do stay around, do put your questions in the live Q&A, because we will be going on to the live Q&A shortly. So our application process, we have a 4-stage application process. We encourage everyone to apply online. Our engineering roles, civil engineering and structural and bridge engineering, are currently live. So apply now if you're interested in an opportunity with Arcadis. We have graduate level roles as well as summer internships and 12-month placements. Step 2 would then be an online behavioural assessment through our partners Arctic Shores. Step 3, if you're a graduate, will be to go through an assessment centre. If you're a placement student or a summer internship application, then you do get to miss this stage. And then all candidates will do an interview with us. So I'm just going to take you through those stages in a bit more detail. So the first step is our online behavioural assessment. Now, this is run in conjunction with our partners Arctic Shores, and it is a behavioural assessment. So you will go through a number of tasks. There's no questions. There's also no right or wrong answers. Instead, what we're looking for here is just to find out a bit more about you through a number of intuitive tasks. This then, using neuroscience and a lot of other kind of psychoanalytical tools, will give us an insight into your behaviours and will give us a profile of your natural strengths. So a few hints and tips for us on this process. Make sure that you get comfortable in a distraction-free environment. Okay, it's really important when you're doing this online that you're not distracted by something else that's going on. We're trying to get a view of you as a profile in that kind of snapshot. Make sure that you read all the instructions given to you on the platform carefully. There is an option to do some pre-tests if you would like to, just to kind of understand the simulation, how it's going to work. Do take use of that. And also, if we send you any links to any of the Arctic Shores websites where you can get a bit more insight, do look at those as well. Give yourself plenty of time to complete this in one sitting. Now, this assessment isn't timed, although there are 2 timed elements, okay? So instead, you can take breaks in between, you can walk away and come back. Most people typically take about an hour to an hour and a half to complete this because they like to give themselves breaks in between. And we would strongly encourage you to do that as well. But where you can, do try to complete it in one sitting. So try not to save and then come back in, because we have found that may cause some discrepancies or it might even close your account. So do be careful with that. Try and keep the browser window open. And then finally, bring your A game. As with any kind of behavioural or psychometric assessment, this captures your behaviours at a snapshot at time. So what we would really recommend is that you do this on a time when you're feeling energised, engaged, so that we're really getting the best you that we can. Okay. So the next step, if you apply for the graduate programme, is then the assessment centre. This is a virtual assessment centre lasting approximately 3 hours, and it will be held on MS Teams. Now, prior to the assessment centre itself, you will be invited to a pre-assessment centre briefing run by a member of my team. That's typically the Friday before the assessment centre. So we'll give you a bit more of an insight into the assessment centre and a few more hints and tips there. So if you can attend that session, please make sure that you do. On the assessment centre itself, the first half an hour will be a graduate networking. So you'll get the opportunity to meet with other graduates who are already employed by Arcadis, and really ask them any questions you might have about the upcoming assessment centre, as well as what it's like to, kind of work for Arcadis. You'll then go into the first of 2 activities. Now, I can't give you too much insight into the actual activities themselves, other than to tell you that one is a group activity and the other is a paired activity. You will be provided with information to read on the day of the assessment centre that will help you with both of these activities. These activities are really designed to give you insights into our programme and also give you a bit of an insight into some of the activities our employees undertake. So this is a very big hint that it could be things like working on a bridge structure. It could be something like working on a project plan for a client. So really the exercises are designed to give you that insight. Some hints and tips here, again, make sure you're in a distraction-free environment for the full time of the virtual assessment centre. Make sure that, you're fully engaged. You're not going to get distracted by, maybe your housemate coming through or anything like that. The next is to make sure that your tech is okay. So make sure you've got a good camera, make sure that that's working and that you've got a stable internet connection. If you live in a shared house, it might be worth just letting those that you're in the house with know that, you've got an assessment centre coming up, and would they mind not streaming a box set or, anything like that at the time, just to make sure that there's no glitches. Obviously, if there are glitches with your tech and you are kicked out of the assessment centre for whatever reason, that's not a point to worry about at all. My team will be on hand to help you to get back into the assessment. The next is listen carefully to all of the instructions that we give you, just to make sure that you're fully covering everything that needs to be covered as part of that activity, and also really just to kind of make sure that you've got all of the information that you need. And then the final one is just be yourself. At Arcadis, we have a very people-centric and a people culture. For us, it's really important that we find out more about you as an individual, because you are who we're hiring. So make sure that you are yourself. And I know that's easy to say, with me being on the other side of the table, but try to relax into it and find it an enjoyable experience if you can. And then the final stage for all, including some interns and placement students, is the competency interview. So at this stage, it will be another virtual interview. This will last approximately an hour and a half. You will have 2 parts to that. The first is a competency interview, and the second is a discussion element. And we'll send you out in advance all of the details on the discussion element so that you've got that to read through. Okay. We're really trying to get a view here of your behavioural and motivational insights. So think about, what kind of behaviours that we might be looking for, what are our company values, and start to think about some of the examples of when you've experienced or shown those so that you can bring them to light in the interview. Again, make sure that you're in a distraction-free environment. It's really important here that you're not interrupted, because that might stop your flow. Make sure you're preparing thoroughly. So make sure that you're reading our website, you're identifying which of our company values that you may, affiliate with, come up with some examples of when you've shown some of these as well, so that we can then, kind of bring those to life in the interview. Don't be afraid to ask for clarification or take thinking time. It's perfectly okay for there to be a silence in the interview just whilst you're thinking, but just make sure that you let the assessor know. So say something like, I just want to take a second to think about that, so that they don't think that there's any technical issues and maybe you've lost signal. And then finally, just be authentic, be you, be who you are. We want to find out who you are because you are the most important part of this process. Now, I've noticed a couple of questions have come up. So before we head over to the graduate panel, I am just going to answer those. So the first question is, do we take first year students for our summer placements? Yes, we absolutely do. Our placements are open to students at all years of study. We would just ask though, if you know, if you are due to graduate this year, if actually you would please apply to the graduate programme rather than the internship or the placement opportunity, just purely because you know, what we like to do is keep those placement opportunities for students who are still at university and are returning to university. Okay. I think I've also asked the answered part of the next question, which is, can I apply for the summer internship if I'm graduating this year? So ideally, we would like you to apply for the graduate programme. You have then gone on to say that would taking a year before applying for the graduate programme put the applicant at a disadvantage? No, it wouldn't. However, you know, obviously with the current climate and, you know, the fact that we actually have 2 intakes a year, it might be better to apply sooner rather than later. So our 2 intakes for the graduate programme are April and September. So what you can do is apply this year, and if you are successful, you could discuss with my team about deferring to next April rather than starting in the September. Alternatively, you can wait and take that full year off if you would like to, and then, you know, apply again, you know, sort of next September when we open for 2024. So either way would work. And then there's a question here. Oh, I'm actually going to save this one for the panel. So what I will do now is I shall move over to our panel. So just a reminder, the panelists we have today are Zoe. So she is our graduate engineer working within our rail team, graduated with an MEng in Civil and Structural Engineering from Coventry University. Camille is our graduate engineer from our structures team. She has an MEng in Civil Engineering with Architecture from the University of Glasgow. And Nuria is our engineer from our water team. And she has an MSc in Civil Engineering and an MSc in Water and Wastewater Engineering from Cranfield. So we will start the panel discussion. So first of all, I am going to go over to Camille with our first question. So our first question, Camille, is why did you apply to Arcadis as a civil engineer?
So I got my graduate role with Arcadis after doing my summer placement, which I think is a big benefit for both Arcadis and applicants because you can make that connection with your team beforehand. It made my role a lot easier because I started working from home as well, so I knew my team before starting. But I applied to the summer placement because of the projects that I saw that Arcadis had been involved in. I remember I was looking on their website and they seemed to have a really wide variety of projects, and not just in engineering as well. It was they had a lot of involvement in buildings and surveying and just, yeah, a lot of wide range of things. And then also their people focus, I remember as well. And even in the interview, I remember the questions I was asked were really directed towards me individually, opposed to just generic questions that you run through. So I really liked the people-focused attitude, and you didn't feel like you were going to be lost in a big company. I applied as well because I hadn't had much bridge structure experience in uni, and I thought that would be great to get the experience in that. And then joining the team, as I said before, yeah, I just met the team and they were so supportive during my summer placement that when I came back as a graduate, I knew that I would get that support and encouragement from the team. Yeah, that's about it.
Fantastic, thank you. And Nura, the same question to you, please.
Thanks, Holly. So yeah, I think in my case was that, well, Arcadis is a multinational company, right? with a good reputation. So I thought, well, why not? I'm sure it would be a good choice. But especially, yeah, when I saw the values that they were committed with, the sustainability and the digital, that really was a good highlight for me. And also when I had the interview and I met the people in the Exeter office, I saw the projects they were working on it, and I thought they were really interesting. So and yes, Camille said, like, the focus on people first was also something that I felt really aligned with it. So
fantastic. Thank you so much indeed. So Zoe, I'm going to come to you for our next question that we've had. And this question is, what advice would you give someone applying to Arcadis?
Okay. I think you might have touched on it, but most importantly, I'd say try to be yourself. Obviously, that's quite hard to do in an interview or in a CV, especially if it's one of your first goes. I know my interview with Arcadis when I was 18 was one of the most nerve-wracking things I'd done at that point in my life. But everybody has unique skills and experiences to bring to the team, and that really is important at Arcadis. Just have a look at our core values. But yeah, ultimately, I suppose be positive, try and be forward thinking, but obviously considerate with your design work and think sustainably.
Great, some great advice and tips there. Definitely, you know, in keeping with our Arcadis values. So thank you so much for that, Zoe. So Noura, I'm going to come over to you now for the next question, please. So the question is, what is the best part of working for Arcadis?
okay, what is the best part of working on Arcadis? Well, I really enjoy the projects I am working on. I'm enjoying the opportunities I'm having on my role. I feel valuable. I feel that I'm valuable on the team. I feel heard and safe. You know, I feel that I'm in a safe place to express myself or talk if I have any issue, personal or professional issue. And I do like the flexibility that we have nowadays with this hybrid way of working, of being in the office and also being able to work from home. And you know, if one day I need to maybe start a bit later and finish a bit later, you know, like that's fine. So that's quite good.
Fantastic. And Zoe, over to you for the same question, please. What is the best part of working for Arcadis?
Okay then, probably that we're a global company. You know, we're an international community. We work on small projects and large projects in so many different countries. I've really been lucky to experience both ends of the spectrum with the work I've done both throughout my placement year, summer placements, and graduate experiences. And I've really found that everyone is happy to help when you do come across a challenge, when you need a bit more advice. You know, we have so many industry experts, and they're always happy to lend a hand if you're struggling.
Great, thank you very much. Another question here, Camille, I think I'm going to come to you for this one. How have you been able to use your degree in your role?
Well, so I think engineering gives you a really great base knowledge across a wide range of topics. I think as much as that is, of course, helpful when tackling engineering problems, it's more the soft skills that I think that I've been able to really use more. You know, it's knowing how to search for answers, interrogate problems, and how to collaborate people and speak to your team. I think that can sometimes almost be the most useful aspect, because you know, everyone studying an engineering degree will get the core technical knowledge from that. You get so much support on your projects as well from your team that that if if you're struggling to find an answer, you always get the help that you need from that. So I think uni courses, for mine at least, I got yeah, got really good insight on a wide range of topics that I've now been able to build upon a lot more. I also studied civil engineering with architecture, and I hadn't expected to be able to really use the architecture part of that in my engineering role. But I was quite pleasantly surprised to hear how many people were wanting to use that, and you know, engineering and design really go side and side in that collaboration together. I think Arcadis understands the importance of that, so I was also quite happy to have people care about that part of my degree as well.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for that answer there, Camille. So we've had a great question come into the chat here. So Nura, I think I'm going to come over to you for this one. The question from the chat is, what opportunities are there outside of project work? So examples, sustainability, community and social. So Nura, over to you for that one, please.
Okay, so I would say there's plenty of opportunities. So, for example, I've been involved on the Roots of Arcadis program, which is a program for networking for young professionals, and it helps to network with other people and organize like social or professional trips. So it's a good way, that program, to just like leverage your skills, right, and also have a bit of fun, really. Also, you can get involved on the STEM programs and promote the engineering in schools or in any communities. So there's always plenty of programs that you can join outside of work. Also, at least in the Exeter office, but I know that in the London office, Bristol office, at the end of the month, there's normally a social. So you have like some beers in the kitchen area with the rest of your colleagues from the office, which is great to have also those social moments with your colleagues. So yeah, and also there's like fundings for your personal development, which you can use not only for things focused on your project, but also like transversal skills. So it's plenty of opportunities on that range.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Nura. Such a great insight there into what else you can do outside of just the day job. So another great question here. Camille, I think I'm going to come to you for this one. What would you say is the most challenging aspect of transition from university to the graduate roles as a civil engineer?
I think what I personally found the hardest was going from having everything that you do is for yourself in uni. You know, you're setting your exams and you know, submitting your coursework for yourself, and shifting that pressure to then working within a team, and it's not just your own grade that you're striving for now. And so I think that was the oddest thing to have to figure out, that work shift. But on a positive side of that, I think it's also a lot easier because you don't have that pressure that you're putting yourself on. I know that I did in university, where I thought I had to work, you know, 24 hours a day to get everything done. And so on the other side of that is that you actually get much nicer work-life balance than I think you do in uni sometimes. And there's so many support networks as well. There's Engineers of the Future, which is a program that we've got as well, which is all the junior level engineers. And so you have a cohort of people that you can go to that are going through the exact same thing at the exact same time, especially if you join often with a large group of people across different teams. You make those connections on your first week, and you have the same people to be able to go back to you know, months later. And I still go back and talk to the engineers that I started with almost 2 years ago, and reconnect with them and ask them questions about things that I need a hand on.
No, fantastic. Thank you so much, Camille, for that insight. Another great question here. Zoe, I think I'm going to come to you for this one, if I may. So if you had to name the most important skill needed to succeed at Arcadis, what would that be?
I'd say that's a pretty hard question, actually. Technical ability is always important, but I would actually say I think communication is the most important. It doesn't matter how fantastic your idea is, how innovative, how sustainable, how technically brilliant it is, if you can't get that across to the client, to the contractor, to even your line manager, you know, you're going to struggle to make the impact that you want to make. So I really would say communication is the most important skill, not just at Arcadis, but for anything. I don't know if anybody else has any other skills.
Fantastic. And Nura, I think I'm probably going to come to you and Camille for this one as well, because you know, it would be very interesting to get all three of your views as to, you know, what you guys think the most important skill is. So Nura, how about you?
So yeah, so I had that good point about communication. I would say maybe, yeah, being proactive and have the initiative to just go for things, go for it. One time my line manager told me one sentence that I always remember, which is whoever that decides is whoever who eats on the room. So at the end, it's like you need to be proactive. You need to be in appearance in meetings or with the clients or with your line manager, and yeah, just like leave that fear of failing behind and going for it.
Some great advice there. And Camille, how about you? What would you say is the best or the greatest skill to have?
Yeah, I think I have to piggyback on the previous answers as well. Communication is a big one. Being able to pick up the phone and talk to your team members, because, you know, being able to solve a problem without then being able to communicate why and how, then it doesn't really it doesn't matter so much. And yeah, I think also having the confidence to speak up and tell your line manager, your team, or speak to team members, talk about how you feel, how you're getting on, and being able to have the confidence to ask those questions is really important, because that's how you can progress. And yeah, the more you speak up, the more you get out there, and the more people you know, and then it all kind of spirals from that.
Fantastic. Some really great tips there, and thank you to everyone that submitted a question. I think we were able to get through most of them, but just being very conscious of kind of time. I'm sure you've all got you know, lots of things to go on and do. So just really the last thing I want to cover on this live session is just who to reach out to. So obviously our roles are live. There is a QR code on the screen there for you. If you scan that will take you through to our live opportunities. So please do, you know, if you've enjoyed anything that you've heard today, do submit an application. If you've got any questions, or, you know, if you leave the session today and think, oh, I wish I'd asked that question, but I didn't get time to, or I wasn't able to, then there is an email address there, earlycareers@arcadis.com, and that will come through to my team and we'll be happy to help you. So all that's left is for me to say a massive thank you to Nura, to Camille and Zoe for taking the time today to talk to us a little bit about their kind of career histories and giving us a bit of a spotlight into some of the projects that they've worked on. And a massive thank you to all of you who have attended today's session as well. Hopefully you have found it insightful, and we look forward to welcoming you to Arcadis as a problem solver for the planet soon. Thank you.